If you could give the ball to one starting pitcher right now in a must-win game, who are you taking? Reigning AL Cy Young Tarek Skubal? Flame-throwing phenom Paul Skeens? Maybe the pitcher undergoing the ultimate career resurgence, Chris Sale? You can have all of those guys. Fate of the universe on the line, or the Martians have the death beam pointed at Earth.
I want Iguodala.
No, I want Zack Wheeler. Wheeler has quietly been the most dominant pitcher in baseball over the past few seasons. He just doesn't have the awards to show for it, which is a travesty. Since arriving in Philadelphia ahead of the 2020 season, Wheels has the most innings pitched in all of baseball, the most wins, the fourth most strikeouts, and one of the best whip and ERA statistics in the league. In that span, he also has more 6+ inning starts than anyone else in the sport. Yet, he has relatively nothing to show for it. Despite his pure dominance, Wheeler has just 2 All-Star appearances and a Gold Glove. He's received Cy Young Award votes 4 of the past 5 seasons and has finished as a runner-up twice in 2021 and last year, 2024. But this isn't new for Zack Wheeler. The disrespect he's experienced throughout his career began long ago in the midst of a magical New York Mets World Series run.
They haven't been to the World Series since 2000, and the Mets are on their way back.
Zack Wheeler was initially drafted by the San Francisco Giants with the 6th overall pick of the 2009 MLB Draft, but was traded to the Mets 2 years later for Carlos Beltran. He made his big league debut in June of 2013 and supplied the Mets with 100 innings and a mid-3s ERA, followed by a similar ERA in his 2014 campaign over nearly 200 innings. Unfortunately, ahead of the 2015 season, Wheeler tore his UCL and underwent Tommy John surgery, which held him out of that entire season. But that was no problem for the Mets. Despite Wheeler's unavailability, they won 90 games and took home the National League pennant. Before the postseason began, Wheeler, excited about his team's success, despite his absence, take notes Carson Wentz, was eager to join them on their playoff run, and he went and asked the front office how he could go about doing so, to which they said, no. Wheeler explained that he wanted to get an idea of what October baseball was like. He anticipated having a long, successful career with the Mets, where he'd be pitching in the postseason frequently, so he wanted to be comfortable with the atmosphere when it was eventually his turn to take the mound. But the Mets told him to get lost. He wasn't allowed to sit in the dugout, hang out with the team in the clubhouse, travel with them. Even when he asked if he could get a ticket to simply spectate from the stands, the Mets told him to buy his own. Looking back on it now, the Mets front office likely viewed Wheeler as an afterthought. He was fine his first 2 seasons in Queens, but nothing too special, unlike the young starting pitching that had fueled their deep postseason run. Jacob deGrom, Matt Harvey, Noah Syndergaard, and Steven Matz. They figured they had a strong core of young starters and had no interest in waiting around for Zack Wheeler to recover from his Tommy John surgery. They weren't going to get rid of him, but they certainly weren't going to prioritize him. The 25-year-old Wheeler was enraged, and the future ace vowed to never forget what the New York Mets did to him. Wheeler ended up facing a few setbacks in his recovery, missing the entirety of the 2016 season as well. He returned to the mound in 2017 and turned in a couple of decent seasons in 2018 and 2019 to the tune of a 3.65 ERA. Making up for lost time, perhaps, he closed in on nearly 200 innings pitched in each of those seasons, laying the foundation for the workhorse he would become in Philadelphia. 5 years, $118 million. I can still remember me and my friend in our high school cafeteria reading the alert on our phones and saying to each other, okay, Zack Wheeler is good, but is he that good? I mean, even then, we were doubting the guy. And we weren't the only ones disrespecting Wheeler by questioning if he was worth that much money. The New York Mets general manager, Brodie Van Wagenen, decided it was a good move to insert himself in the discourse about Wheeler's contract, basically taking credit for why he got paid so much. Of course, it wasn't out of nowhere. Wheeler had taken a shot at the Mets first. When asked if he gave New York a chance to counter the Phillies' offer, he said, "It was basically just crickets when I did, because it's them. It's how they roll." But in Wheeler's eyes, he wasn't taking the first shot. They did that 4 years ago when they told him to buy his own ticket. Signing with the NL East rival Phillies and his comments, that was just retaliation. After a productive first season with the Phillies, Zack Wheeler came into his own in 2021. In his season debut, he gave the Phils 7 shutout innings against the Atlanta Braves and a victory. Across 11 starts in May and June, Wheeler posted a 1.81 ERA, cementing himself as one of the league's best and earning his first All-Star appearance. At the end of the season, he was announced as a National League Cy Young Award finalist, along with Milwaukee Brewers' Corbin Burnes and Los Angeles Dodgers' Max Scherzer. That season, Wheeler led the entire National League in WAR, as well as strikeouts, innings pitched, batters faced, complete games, and shutouts. Burnes and Scherzer may have had the advantage in ERA and WHIP, but Wheeler had faced nearly 200 more batters than them. He threw almost 50 more innings than Burnes. That had to count for something, but it didn't. Voters treated Wheeler the same way the Mets had treated him years earlier, just not good enough. Corbin Burnes took home the honors, but the voting results told an interesting story. Wheeler matched Burnes in first-place votes with 12 and received 5 less second-place votes. A quick glance at the results might indicate that Wheeler finished in first. Nobody received more first-place votes than him, but somehow, someway, 4 voters slotted him in at third place, 4 voters had him in fourth place, and 1 voter even penciled him in as the 5th best pitcher in the National League. Ultimately, the overwhelming support for Burnes in second place and the underwhelming support for Wheeler in that same position is what lost him the award and won it for Burnes. Now, this information is publicly available online on the BBWAA website. You can find out exactly which writer voted for who and what position. I am not going to use these guys' names because I just don't want to sit here and put these guys on blast for a silly decision they made 4 years ago. That being said, Kevin Gausman received 5 total votes, 4 fifth-place votes, and somebody gave him a third-place vote. Okay, sure, Gausman had a strong 2021 campaign that earned him his current lucrative contract with the Toronto Blue Jays. But this wise guy who gave Gausman a third-place vote gave Zack Wheeler a fourth-place vote behind Gausman. There was quite literally not one thing Gausman did better than Wheeler in 2021. Wheeler had more innings pitched, more strikeouts, a better ERA, a better WHIP, a better FIP, you name it. Wheeler had him beat. There is no reason Kevin Gausman should have had his name ahead of Zack Wheeler's on any ballot. Another guy featured ahead of Wheeler on a few ballots was Walker Buehler, another guy who had a strong season and holds a much better argument than Kevin Gausman. I mean, that one was just ridiculous. Anyway, Buehler had a better ERA and WHIP than Wheeler, but Wheeler had a much stronger FIP, more innings, more strikeouts, and I think the 3 complete games, 2 of them being shutouts, displays Wheeler's pure dominance compared to Buehler's 0. Now, what about Brandon Woodruff? Woodruff had the better ERA and WHIP. He had far less innings, but he had a better strikeout percentage. Yet, only 1 voter put him ahead of Wheeler. Why is that? Probably because of Wheeler's workhorse tendencies. Despite Woodruff having the better numbers on the surface, Wheeler sustained his over a much longer period of time, about 33 more innings. That makes sense. So why wasn't that good enough to beat out Corbin Burnes? Who knows? Maybe the system is flawed, maybe the voters need to reevaluate their process. The bottom line is Zack Wheeler had a serious argument for winning the 2021 NL Cy Young Award and didn't win it. Interestingly enough, the Phillies had that year's Cy Young runner-up in Wheeler, as well as the MVP in Bryce Harper, but didn't even make the playoffs. That would change the following season. Zack Wheeler missed time in August and September due to injury. He pitched 153 innings, a number not far off of Corbin Burnes' 2021 mark, and really replicated the success he had the previous season. But unfortunately, he didn't receive a single Cy Young vote for his performance that season. But Zack didn't need the award. That October, he finally got the postseason start he had envisioned when he was on the Mets. Only, in those visions, METS was written across his chest. Now, the red writing displayed on his jersey symbolized a new Zack Wheeler, a Zack Wheeler that never forgot when he was told to buy his own ticket. That postseason, amid the Phillies' World Series run, Wheeler made 6 starts, tied for the most starts in a single postseason in MLB history. He entered the World Series with a 1.78 ERA, and while he wasn't as dominant against an incredible Astros lineup, he never got lit up. In his worst game, he only allowed 4 earned runs. The Phillies' offense had just run out of gas. In 2023, Zack Wheeler registered another solid season for the Phillies. Ever the workhorse, he neared 200 innings pitched along with 200-plus strikeouts, and while his ERA wasn't outstanding, His FIP indicated it wasn't entirely representative of the season he had. He finished 6th in NL Cy Young voting, but it was the postseason where he really shined. In all 4 of his starts that October, he went at least 6 innings, struck out at least 8, and allowed no more than 2 earned runs. The Phillies won 3 of his starts, and in Game 7 of the NLCS, with a depleted bullpen just 3 days after a 7-inning, 1-run start that resulted in a win, Phillies manager Rob Thompson turned to Zack Wheeler in the 7th inning. Wheeler pitched an inning and 2/3, allowing 0 hits and 0 runs, lowering his ERA that postseason to a 1.95. Unfortunately, the Phillies lost, and that would be his final appearance in the 23 postseason, but Wheeler had continued to solidify himself as one of the game's best. Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel ceiling, Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, Zack Wheeler's 2024 season. Just a few examples of incredible artists and their magnum opuses, their most impressive, renowned, and greatest works. Wheeler posted career bests in WHIP, which he led the NL in, as well as ERA. He was 2nd in the NL in innings and strikeouts. The race for NL Cy Young was a 2-man race. 2 men had terrific seasons that nobody else even came close to. The question was just, who was better? The 2 men were Zack Wheeler and Chris Sale of the Atlanta Braves. On the surface, Chris Sale is your NL Cy Young Award winner. I get it. It's a shame Wheeler had a fantastic season, a career year, and there just so happened to be a guy who was better. But was he actually better? In short, yes. But if you dig a little deeper, Wheeler led the NL in quality starts, 26 compared to just 18 from Sale. Wheeler's 200 innings were 22 more than Sale, and Wheeler made 25 starts where he went 6 innings or more and allowed 2 earned runs or less, something that hadn't been done by a pitcher since 2015. Those 25 such starts were the most by a Phillies pitcher in over 50 years since Steve Carlton in 1972. That means Roy Halladay never did it. Cliff Lee, Cole Hamels, Curt Schilling, you name it, none of them were as dominant as Zack Wheeler in 2024. So was Sale better? Yeah, probably. But that doesn't diminish what Zack Wheeler did. Since 2021, he's been one of the most consistent and dominant pitchers year in and year out. What bothers me about the 2024 NL Cy Young voting is, yet again, in absolutely moronic fashion, someone entered a ballot reminiscent of the 2021 Kevin Gausman debacle. A voter put not just Chris Sale and Paul Skeens ahead of Zack Wheeler, but also Hunter Green of the Cincinnati Reds, giving Wheeler a 4th-place vote. Yet another case of a pitcher not doing a single thing better than Wheeler, but a foolish voter, still putting them ahead of him. Nobody would cast such a brainless vote to the detriment of, say, Chris Sale, but when it comes to Zack Wheeler, go right ahead and put anybody in front of him. In the 2024 postseason, the Phillies were massively disappointing, but Wheeler was his usual self. He pitched just one game, Game 1 of the NLDS, against his former employer, where he hurled 7 scoreless, striking out 9 and allowing just 1 hit. There's a certain feeling when Zack Wheeler is on the mound as a Phillies fan. A feeling of confidence and calmness, which Wheeler instills in the fan base each time he toes the rubber. When Wheeler is starting, you know there's almost a guarantee of at least 6 innings, and he won't give up more than 3 runs if he gives up any. The quality start has become synonymous with Zack Wheeler, to the point they may have to change the abbreviation to ZW. Based on everything I told you, it should come as no surprise that Zack Wheeler is one of the best pitchers in MLB postseason history. There is not a single starting pitcher in the history of our beautiful game that has a better postseason whip than Zack Wheeler. The only pitcher with a better whip is Jeremy Affeldt, who was a reliever. And Wheeler, ever the innings junkie, has more than double the amount of postseason innings Affeldt recorded in his career. Wheeler has become a postseason legend. He no longer has to buy his own tickets. That does it for this one, and that is why Zack Wheeler is the most disrespected pitcher in all of Major League Baseball. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. Feel free to comment your thoughts, opinions, appreciation for Zack Wheeler, etc. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.